we've got a few more signings to dive into.
This offense continues to evolve as the season goes on.
Welcome into Bucs Insider, presented by Hard Rock Bet Sportsbook. Casey Phillips here with Scott Smith and Brianna Dix, and we are coming to you with some more coaching news. That is, of course, all the stories of the day here is all the different openings and when are there going to be interviews for some of them. And, of course, typically you do start with the coordinator positions that are open, but just as a reminder to everybody to kind of recap what we talked about last week in terms of what those openings are, the Bucs will at some point be needing to fill. You have offensive coordinator Josh Grizzard, who was let go, quarterback coach Thad Lewis, special teams coordinator Thomas McGahee, corners coach Kevin Ross, D-line coach Charlie Strong, and then safeties coach Nick Rapone and Tom Moore both retired. So those are the current openings, and like I said, you typically start with sort of the coordinator spots, and then everything can fill in from there. So let's start, of course, with offensive coordinator. That's the one that I think everybody's very excited to hear about. A lot of interesting candidates. So what do we know so far about who the team has officially interviewed?
Well, the Bucs have interviewed several candidates thus far, including Brian Callahan, who is the former Titans head coach, Israel Wolfork, who is the Cardinals quarterback coach, David Shaw, the Lions pass game coordinator, Zach Robinson, the Falcons offensive coordinator, Mike Kafka, the Giants interim head coach, Todd Monken, the Ravens offensive coordinator, and on Friday, the Bucs are interviewing Mike McDaniel, the former Dolphins head coach.
And so anything stand out to either of you guys on those lists, any of those names?
Well, Todd Monken, because he's been here before. He had 3 seasons in the Jameis Winston era and a lot of prolific numbers during that time. But it's interesting also because he spent 1 year as the Cleveland OC in 2019, and that's when Baker Mayfield was there. So he got to know them. Apparently they got along well. And then just last 3 years with the Ravens, they had Lamar Jackson. They had Derrick Henry the last couple of years. I mean,
helpful.
Yeah, but I mean, they were top 5 in that 3-year span in almost every offense category you can think of, including number 1 in both rushing yards per game and passer rating. So it's been a very balanced attack. The thing about it that you have to keep in mind with Todd Monken, though, is that we know now that John Harbaugh is going to be the head coach for the Giants, and so I would think there's probably a decent chance that he could try to bring Todd Monken with him. So you're going to
a young quarterback. It's appealing, and
So I mean, with a lot of these guys, there's going to be competition. Yeah,
that's very, very true. Bree, how about you? Any names stand out?
For me, it's Zach Robinson, and I think there's kind of a couple of things. First is obviously him being Falcons offensive coordinator, so you see that in the NFC South. I've had kind of familiarity with him there. But then also he overlapped with Baker Mayfield. So when Baker Mayfield was signed by the Rams for that stint in 2022, Zach Robinson was serving as the pass game coordinator and the quarterback's coach for the Rams at the time. So he falls into that Sean McVay coaching tree that the Buccaneers really like. But just he became instrumental in the development of Baker Mayfield. I mean, Baker got there, had 2 days, and then played that Thursday night game against the Raiders, led that improbable 98-yard game-winning drive. And I think Zach Robinson is really kind of attributed to the success that Baker had in some of the anticipation throws that he was able to make.
Yeah, and we're talking about Zach. He's doing interviews because he's on Raheem's staff, Raheem Morris, and Raheem Morris got let go. So, but you look at the offensive numbers the last couple of years, Atlanta's had some real good success.
It's very true. And for me, of course, I would love to highlight Mike McDaniel. I think this is just such an exciting thing to know that he's coming in for an interview, because this is a guy who's going to be, very much in demand for head coaching jobs, for coordinator positions. And we have seen firsthand, even very recently playing against their team, some of the stuff that he can do, even joint practices going back. Yeah. We've always watched and been able to see the way that he can get a lot out of some really fun weapons, and just a very exciting type of offensive coordinator. And also, I mean, it's interesting to think about the fact that Josh Grizzard did spend time under him. And so if you're hating the fact that we're having to do another offensive coordinator, maybe there would be at least a hint of continuity with that, of some of the things that he had brought here that he probably learned from Mike McDaniel. But no matter who we're talking about, I think the biggest thing to realize right now is how much it may not just be about who the Bucs want. There is going to be so much competition, because that coaching wheel has spun often and frequently. And I mean, it's just so interesting to think about the fact that you have 9 teams looking for head coaches, right? So even if they haven't inherently let go of their OC yet, the idea of, okay, that's already 9 head coaches who might want to bring in their own people. So there's 9 potential offensive coordinator jobs. Then you do have 5 other teams that have let their offensive coordinators go. So you have the potential to be competing for 14 different openings with people. And again, for both things like a Mike McDaniel, where he's clearly going to be interviewing for some head coaching roles as well.
Exactly.
So just because, I'm sure that all of us are just sitting there going, oh, I want this guy or I want this guy. Man, you might have to fight claw and nail your way to whoever it is you want. So I think it's just going to be really interesting to see. And of course, it's always about these dominoes that start falling. If this guy gets hired, this guy gets hired. So as some of those dominoes fall, we might learn a little bit more. But it's
there's been a couple filled.
Yeah.
David Blau, I think is how it's pronounced, the former Lions quarterback. He's the new Washington OC. And then, of course, we talked about John Harbaugh and the ripple effects that could have. So you're right. And that's why the Buccaneers, it seems like it's been a whirlwind the last, it's been 8 days. This is the 8th day, or the 9th day since all those coaches were let go.
So
and
many candidates.
We've already interviewed 6 candidates, and there's not necessarily an end in sight. The Bucs have to move fast. All these teams are having to move fast, and John Harbaugh was the first domino to fall in terms of head coaches, and I think it's going to start to pick up quite a bit.
I would agree with that. And then also, let's talk about special teams coordinator. I know we've been able to announce a few of those.
No
candidates.
shortage of those candidates either. Yeah, I think we've done basically one a day this week, just about. The candidates that the Buccaneers have interviewed so far, and mostly, I think maybe all of them have been virtual. Most of these interviews are virtual because at a certain time, until a certain point in the playoffs, they can't come if they're on certain staffs or whatever. We've talked to Jet Motkins, who's the Lions assistant special teams coordinator the last 5 years.
Jet's a great name, by the way. It's a perfect football name.
Yeah. Craig Ackerman, who we just saw a couple weeks ago with the Dolphins. He was on Mike McDaniel's staff. Anthony Levine Sr., the assistant special teams coordinator for the Ravens. Michael Clay, currently the Eagles special teams coordinator. And then on Friday, the last one was Danny Smith, the Steelers special teams coordinator, who tends to get a little bit more spotlight because he's that guy you see near Tomlin on the sidelines with usually chewing a whole lot of gum. That guy has been a special teams coordinator every single year for the last quarter century, so he's got a ton of experience.
It's incredible. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one to watch as well. All right, also, we know that the coaching news is kind of dominating the news cycle right now, but of course it's also about time for us to start talking about free agency and what all are going to be some of the holes, the needs, and so figured it'd be a good time for us to talk about the list of unrestricted free agents at this point. So what stands out about some of the different guys? I mean, I know we're going to have kind of a graphic that shows the full list, and we didn't necessarily want to go through every single person on that list, but in terms of people that stand out, Bree, was there someone for you that on that list you're going to be watching closely?
For me, it was cornerback Jamel Dean, who was really stout in coverage in 2025, kind of put up probably the best numbers of his career. He allowed the lowest passer rating when targeted among cornerbacks in 2025 with a minimum of 35 defensive targets, and that's per Next Gen Stats. And then he had the second lowest completion percentage when targeted among cornerbacks with a minimum of 35 defensive targets. So had just absolutely tight coverage, crowded guys at the receiver, can accelerate quickly to top speed. But of course, the thing with Jamel has been he's great when he's on the field, but he's had kind of an issue being able to stay healthy. And then in 2025 dealt with kind of the hip and shoulder injuries that sidelined him for a little bit. But when he was healthy, he was extremely effective on the field.
Yeah, what I was kind of noticing, whenever I look at a list like this, I'm always kind of thinking, well, where is there a spot where there's multiple people at any one position? And one stood out to me, of course, is that linebacker position. We still, as of recording this, have not heard Levante's plans of moving forward or not. And either way, he's an unrestricted free agent, but whether he plans to keep playing or not. And then Deion Jones is also on that list. And so essentially, in terms of your guys that really got starter level playing time, it's just Servassier Dennis that's not on that list. And so are you bringing either of those guys back? And then if not, that position just becomes light very quickly and probably means it's one that through the draft or free agency needs to be addressed, maybe even both. We know Jason Light sometimes loves to sandwich positions and address them in multiple ways. So yeah, I think that position group is going to be one to watch for potentially a lot of change when it hasn't had a ton of that in recent years.
I don't think it even matters whether or not these two guys come back. And Levante, I think the biggest thing there is not do the Bucs want him back, is he wanting to play? Does he want to keep going? And same with Mike Evans too, who's on this list. I think if either of those guys wants to keep playing, the Bucs are going to be, it's top priority to bring him back.
Those both, if they got to the point of being Tom Moore's age, I feel like we'd still just be like, sure, that's fine.
But Levante, but even if Levante and Deion Jones both came back, I still think the Bucs would be addressing that position because Levante's obviously close. If he's not finished with his career, he's close to the end. Deion Jones, really is towards the end of his career as well, and hasn't been a starter in the league for a couple of years. And you need depth and you need the future at that position.
Yeah.
So it'd be great to go out and find another Levante David, who we got in the second round way back in 2012.
It's very true. And then I know that there was also the tight ends were another one that you saw multiple names on the list.
Well, I think Cade Otton is a pretty interesting name on that list, and a tough one maybe to figure out exactly what's going to happen with him. Do you guys realize that Cade Otton was our second leading pass catcher this past year?
Wow.
I mean,
I did not.
I would not have thought that.
Emeka was number one with 63 catches, and then Cade was second with 59, and it was kind of quiet.
It's an interesting year. It took till basically the last game to get him his touchdown.
He had the one touchdown.
It's a very bizarre year.
Yeah, but on the other hand, how many times have we heard coaches and his teammates say the exact same thing about Cade Otton, is that he's always does the right thing, and every time he's where he's supposed to be, he does what he's supposed to do.
One of the most underrated skill sets.
Yes.
And he's hardly ever misses any time, and then when he plays in a game, he usually plays 95% of the snaps. So, you don't necessarily think, you don't see Cade Otton and wow, it jumps out he was a star on the list, but this guy plays a ton for us.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting to see what will happen with him. First chance to hit. A lot of four of these names are guys that were 2022 draft choices, and they've just played their first 4-year contract, and now they're hitting free agency for the first time. So I find those to be the most interesting ones on the list. The ones that you drafted, they played their entire rookie contract. Now do they get a second contract with the Bucs?
It's going to be interesting to see. All right, well, that's going to do it for us on this edition of Bucs Insider. And, of course, we're going to keep you posted on all of different coaching, free agency. We're coming up already on Road to the Draft videos. It's all off-season is not a thing. We're just jumping right into it. So make sure you stay tuned here for all of the news about all those potential changes coming right here on Buccaneers.com.